Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. Today we get to interview Christine Burns. And of course, I'm your host, Mike Hingson. Glad to be here. And I want to thank you for being here with us. Hopefully you enjoy our episode today, and I want to hear about it afterward. But Christine is, gosh, what can I say about Christine Burns? She is a lot of things. She's a New Zealand-born lecturer. And I would say that the most important thing to say about Christine, she inspires people to take action, stand up for what they believe in, and not get stuck in the trivia of life. And just before we started recording, we were talking about all the stuff going on now, because it's for all of us as we record this, it's getting close to the holidays and all the things and all the drama of people dealing with the holidays and so on. So, Christine, love to hear your thoughts on that. But first, welcome to Unstoppable Mindset.
Thank you so much, Mike, for having me on here. I feel privileged to be here with you. This is just awesome. This is amazing.
So let's talk about the holidays and everybody preparing and all the crises that everybody is starting to have.
Yeah, it's as we were talking before, I'm just writing a blog for our business, WALT Institute, and just noticing the ramp in, I say, madness and craziness of people in the end of year panic and got to have stuff done before the end of year, and then there's all the pressure for the people who are doing things around Christmas or holidays or taking breaks, and it's just rising. The panic, the madness, the craziness is just on the rise.
And of course, part of the issue is if people were more strategic, they might have got some of that stuff done earlier in the year.
Yeah, that is, I love it. That's exactly one of the points that I brought up in there, is that we, the general we, most people try and squeeze so much into the last 2 months. They get to November and it's like, oh my gosh, we have to have everything done. And so a whole lot of, what could be 3 or 4 months worth of work gets squeezed into 2 months because they haven't planned it earlier. It's like, if we looked at this before and planned it, it'd be fine. It'd be all sorted.
Yeah, I've never been one for making lists, and I try to keep everything in my head, and I do that deliberately. I want to keep off Alzheimer's, but I also, but I actually do value lists. And for me, lists now are putting reminders onto my Amazon Echo or things like that. And that way I get reminded and I deliberately tell it what I want to know about something. And so I guess I'm planning, because what I do is I say, remind me on such and such a day about this. And that way the day does get really organized. So I don't write down lists, because writing it down is kind of out of sight, out of mind. If I put it even in Braille on something, unless it comes up and I hear something, or in your case, if you see something, what good is it? So you can put a list on a wall, and that's great. And that's important to do. So I guess my alternative to that is using electronic reminders or putting things in my calendar, even if it's just reminders. And that works really well. But it is important to plan and not get yourself trapped in the end of the year crisis.
Yeah. And it's something that we notice with a lot of the people that we work with. And I know that I used to always turn around and say, goal setting's overrated. Writing down lists is overrated. And the more I've gone through things and realized how important it is to be organized and plan ahead. And that's something that I've really noticed, is that the more I've looked long term rather than short term all the time, then I have my I choose to do list each week, and I have it on a refill pad, and I have that with me all the time, so that it's like it's in front of my face whenever I'm sitting down anywhere, and I've got it with me right here, right now next to me, so that it helps me do it. It's like planning it makes life so much simpler and easier. It's just, I don't know why we don't do more of it.
I know. I have reminders in the system that will be brought up at the appropriate time by the Echo, but also because I have it all programmed, I'll hear it on my iPhone if I'm not here or whatever. But I've got things that go out into the middle of next year. Just that's the time I choose to deal with a particular thing. And it's all in the plan.
Yeah. And it's something I used to, which is kind of weird, because I used to plan a lot for my hockey stuff. but I didn't plan in my own studies, or I didn't plan initially in our work stuff, because it was like, it'll work out. It'll be okay. And I used to just think I'd be able to fly by the seat of my pants. That was something I'd say to myself a lot, even when I was teaching and lecturing. But I was, fly by the seat of my pants, it'll be okay. And it never worked as well as when I planned it. Yeah.
Well, I'm used to organizing things in my brain. So the reality is most all of those reminders I'm going to remember anyway, but that's good.
Exactly.
It is nice to have a fallback position. What technology does for us, right?
I know. It's great when it works, and it's diabolical when it doesn't.
And we can pick on it, so it's okay. Well, tell us a little about you growing up in the early world of Christine.
The early world of Christine. It was funny. I was on a podcast the other day, and the lady said to me a similar kind of question, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had a great childhood. I'm not one of these ones that can go, oh, this happened and that happened and this was terrible. It was, and things did. I mean, it wasn't all, rose tinted glasses, and it wasn't all honky dory. But the thing was, it's kind of like my mum and dad they're both passed away now, but they're both from Scotland, and dad's this 6'4" big beast, and mum was 5 foot half an inch, and the pair of them were just crazy fun, and it was awesome. And I just had a great time growing up. I learned so many things from them, and I put so many of my learnings from them into everything that I did each day. I loved going to school. I enjoyed school. I was never top of the class. I was, I would study hard and work hard, and I'd get my 55 or 56%. And, on a good day, I might get 70 something. But I just worked hard at it. And I chose to make things work for me. And I think a lot of that was my learnings from mum and dad. And it was growing up in New Zealand was, pretty free and easy, really. It was good times, and play in the street and play with the neighbors, and it was great fun. Yeah, it was good fun.
And that's kind of the way a childhood should be. Of course, everybody has different experiences, but what do you think you learn? What's probably the most important thing or things that you learned from parents that, as you said, had a lot of fun, you had a lot of fun with them, and so on? What did you bring away from all that?
I think and I've used it all the time, is the one liner that my mum used to say often was, "There's always a way." And it wasn't, dad had his own business and mum did all the books. And so it was, even when times were getting a little bit tough or a little bit stretched, and mum would be like, "There's always a way, we can work this out." And so to have "there's always a way" and everything was just fun. It was like, it wasn't to take away or minimize things. It was to enjoy the moments. I think those were definitely those were the key things, really.
Well, it's important to figure out a way. And all too often we experience or find people who just can't move on, or something happens and I don't know how to do with anything with that. I can't do that. I hear it all the time. One of my favorite examples of that is I use a guide dog, and my 8th guide dog, Alamo, is down here being bored. He's heard me talk on these podcasts before, and he says, "Where are my bones?" But I hear so many people say, "Oh, my dog could never do that. My dog would never be that well behaved." Yeah. And I laugh when I hear that. I try not to do it out loud. But I laugh when I hear that, to say, well, whose fault is that? Are you saying your dog is dumb? Or don't you understand that really most dog training is really human training, and your dog could do that if you would but take the time to teach your dog and to establish rules?
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny. I was talking with someone in the park the other day, and that was something exactly what they said. It's not about dog training. It's about training us as humans, it's training us as owners. And it's all about our mindset. It's what we choose as our response or reactions to everything. I've been through similar situations to different people that I'm aware of and that I know of, and we've had very different outcomes. And it's like, same thing. Alamo can sit there and enjoy it and just go, "You know what, this is kind of cool," and I'll listen to Mike and see whoever else is around. But it's a choice. And that's what I tend to do the same, and mostly laugh on the inside when people go, "I can't do this, it'll never work out." that hurts me though when I hear people say that. I'm like, ouch, ouch, you poor thing. That is, yeah, I almost feel sad in a way.
Yeah, because life is about choices.
Yes, it is. It's always about choices, and it doesn't matter what happens. We can choose. You know, we always have a choice of, and not to put a judgment on it, but it's that thing of what can go well for us or what's right for us, and what can go against us or what isn't right for us. And it's, I think it's a tough thing when people allow external situations or allow other people to keep control of their life, really, or they disempower themselves and give it away.
Yeah. Well, you have clearly an extremely positive outlook about life and people and so on, which I love. But what has caused you to have such a positive outlook? Was it just your parents, or what really brings that positive outlook out for you?
Um, I suppose it can't totally be my parents because my sister doesn't have that same view. I think it was, I think we like chalk and cheese. I think it was, for me, it was I played a lot of sport when I was young, and I think I learnt coming through the ranks that, you know, like it was even sport, even school, it was like, if I'm going to get anywhere, it's not that I have to work hard at it. It's that thing of like, when I put in the effort, I get good results or I get good outcomes. And I noticed the effort and I guess the energy that I put into something, and then I saw what I got back from it, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know. I love learning, and it's like, why not learn more? You know, if I can learn a lesson from something and then it allows me to move forward, friggin' do it. Like yeah, I don't know. It's easier to keep positive about it and have an optimistic perspective than get caught up in the BS.
Well, I think you really just hit it when you said you loved learning, you worked at learning, and you recognized that there's value in learning and you can grow from it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we stop learning, then we really are shutting ourselves down, because learning is part of everything we do.
Yeah, it is. It's and I mean, I think it's, you know, I find it difficult when, well, not difficult, challenging, I suppose, when people, you know, haven't been involved in learning things or playing sport. For me, you know, my first port of call with talking about anything is to go back to sports situations and then put it into work situations, because it's my quickest way to transfer that learning for me, is to go, okay, what would I do on the hockey field, or what would I have done on the softball, you know, diamond or whatever, and then go, okay, here's how, or here's what I can do now to take it that next level. And it's, if you're not learning, man, I think you're missing out on life, really.
Yeah. It's not just the learning, it's also putting the knowledge to use.
Yes. Yeah. The implementation of it is just, that's key to me. Is like, you can have so much knowledge. You can, you know, like I've got a bookcase here behind me and another one upstairs, and chocker full of books. Now, those books don't gather dust because they've all been written on or got post-it notes inside them. And I so often go in and out looking at those and talk to people and ask questions so that I can keep implementing it. Because it's like, well, why have knowledge sitting on a shelf? It's pointless. Why just be an information seeker, you know?
Yeah. And then hopefully when you try to share it, find people who are of like mind, and they will absorb.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like yourself, you know, I mean, you know, you know, talking to people and getting through things yourself and accomplishing a whole lot of things in life. You've got to implement it. You've got to find the people around you that are like-minded, that keep you going as well in challenging times. And I mean, you know, you're well aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it isn't necessarily at all just deliberately sharing knowledge. It's being yourself.
No.
And when you can share and contribute, that's as good as it gets. And it isn't forcing someone to listen to what you have to say, but rather it is being like-minded and combining knowledges from more than one person, which is always great.
Yeah. I mean, I love doing this, just sitting down, having a really solid, don't always have to be philosophical, but really solid, good, interesting conversations. I'd rather do that than talk superficial BS and talk about the weather. You know, I love having cool conversations like these. I think it's just brilliant. Yeah.
One of the things I think, and I know it's not just in this country, but one of the things that I miss now, especially in later times, is the real art of conversation. I think it's fun to have political debates, for example, to talk about the issues, but so many people now don't want to do that. Oh, you can't possibly be right. And they don't open up the opportunity to learn or to explore. And it's not about trying to make anyone change their opinion. For me, the discussions are about learning and understanding more of what other people's views are, and talking about mine as well, which do evolve. And I would hope that whenever I had on, and now we can't do it as much in the politics world, but when we have discussions, I would hope I learn. And I know that over the years, I've changed my views on some things because of conversations that we've had. But now we're losing that art of conversation across the board because of what's going on with politics, and people don't want to think about options, alternatives, or anything else. I'm right, you're wrong, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I when you were saying that to start with, I was just laughing because I remember our Christmases, we used to go up to family friends and Dad, and we used to call her Auntie Netta, and they'd always end up in arguments to do with politics. And it was good though. It wasn't like a negative battle, you know, I'm right, you're wrong. It was an opening of, you know, what sort of seemed like an argument, but they'd always end up discussing things really well. And I think, you know, even today they're so scared because it's that thing of going, oh, what's that person going to think of me if I say this, or they're not going to like me, or they won't accept or approve of me if I say or have this belief. And I struggle with that, because it's like you say, how else do you learn? How else do you have this ability to even be open to other people's ideas? It's just different. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just different. And I think that is one of the things that we are losing these days. Yeah.
And it isn't even necessarily all that different if we really communicate, like religion. Everybody argues about what religion's right or wrong. It seems to me that if you look at the major religions in the world, it's all the same God.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember learning off some of my students, because when I came over here to Australia, I had, it was, you know, for the want of better words, it was like the League of Nations in my classes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I would just ask them, you know, because I was really curious and interested to find out where these people were from and what their beliefs were, and to find out. And at the end, I was like, hang on a minute. That's pretty much all the same here. There's not a lot of differences if you start to look at it. Some of them were okay with that, and some of them then decided that wasn't appropriate. But it was the thing of going, it all comes back down to very similar beliefs. You know, there's not this big separation that many people tend to identify. It's quite a narrow focus, or a narrow belief, really, of where it all comes from.
It is indeed. And that's what really makes it interesting when people come to that realization. Well, we talked about go ahead.
I was going to say it's an interesting thing to have this ability to realize that, to notice it, to see it. I think and to say it, I think is quite cool too, to be able to be in an environment where you can actually talk like this and have these conversations is brilliant. Yeah.
Well, talking about your positive outlook and so on, or to put it in the parlance of the podcast, being unstoppable, what are three things that you find or that you believe really help to create an unstoppable mindset?
I think we were talking about before. I think the first one is to learn about self. You know, to really get a self-awareness and have this ability to tap inside, so that we know who we truly are. It's not this superficial BS or fitting into some box. It's knowing who we truly are. The thing also is to have the ability to, for me, it's kind of weird because I say to be physically active as well. So I think be physically active kind of helps our ability to keep moving, to keep that momentum going for us, and it helps us change our state. And then it means that, obviously our mindset flows from there. And I think the third one is to surround yourself with like-minded, awesome, amazing people. Yeah.
Yeah. And the existing in the reality of surrounding yourself with like-minded people doesn't mean that you don't want to have other views. Like-minded people doesn't necessarily mean that they have the same opinions you do, but they have the same philosophies about learning and so on. And they can absolutely have different views. One of my favorite people is the founder of the National Federation of the Blind, Dr. Jacobus Tembrook, who founded the National Federation of the Blind here in the United States in 1940. He and his wife were not of the same political party. They were one Democrat and one Republican. And I never knew him. He died of cancer before I got to meet him, but I knew his wife well. And one of the things that she said is we had very intense arguments and very intense times where we talked, but we talked. And it was fun to be challenged by somebody else who understood that it's all about the challenge and all about the discussion. And we both learned from each other.
Yeah, I think it's the and that's where I think the self-awareness comes in, of going, I'm okay and secure in myself to have a different opinion, and I'm okay and I'm safe within myself to be able to say something and to also deal with someone having a difference of opinion. I think like we said before, the art of conversation is kind of like a dying breed, unfortunately, but it's something that when people have it, and it makes stronger relationships too. It's stronger, creates stronger connections and stronger relationships for people.
Sure. And I think it's also appropriate to say that I'm okay with myself to the point where if somebody says something that I find makes more sense than what I believe, I'm willing to reevaluate and reassess. There's not an absolute.
Yeah, I love that. It's just like, yep, bingo. Yeah, it's a biggie for people to admit that too, for people to admit mistakes, or for people to even, not even to go that far, but to be in that space to go, oh, sure, I didn't think of that. Oh, well, yeah, I'm going to add that to my toolkit, or I'm going to step into thinking about that now. Yeah, I think it's huge. Yeah.
There you go. Well, you're originally from New Zealand, but I know you're in Australia now. When did you move?
I moved over here in 2011. So I'd always, Mum and Dad they'd come out from Scotland to New Zealand. They had lived here in Melbourne for 3 years. Mum loved it. Dad hated it. So they went back to New Zealand. And then Dad died 2008. Mum died 2011, and she died in the June. And then it was like, what's left in New Zealand? Yeah, not much. And then I was like, I've always wanted to go and live in Australia. I might do that. Mum loved it. Why did she love it? I'll go and find out. And so I came over here, and my partner actually had shifted over here, and it was like, okay, enough of this long distance relationship. Let's sort this out. And over I came, and it was just amazing I'd always wanted to go somewhere else and to live somewhere else. And so it was Melbourne, why not? Let's go and do it. Yeah.
And you must love it. You're still there, and it's now been about 11 years.
Yeah. Originally it was like, let's see what it's like for a couple of years. Let's see what it's like for 2 or 3 years. And then that sort of expanded to 5 years. And then, 11 years later, I'm still here. And so we've got our business and things. And I love the city. I love Melbourne. I really enjoy having the option. I live in a suburb, but I do love going into the CBD and just having the bigness and it's great. It's a great city. I like the big city kind of thing. I still miss New Zealand, like New Zealand is always home. It's, always in the heart kind of thing. But a couple of times of going home, been more than a few times of going home, it's like, it's almost like New Zealand seems to get smaller and smaller, and just being in the different cities, it's like people used to talk about busy time. It's like there's 6 cars on the road. It's become that kind of, I've turned into a big city person, but I love it. The people are different, like there is a difference in how that goes down. I don't mind. Australians are different to New Zealanders. I thought they used to be very similar. They're quite different people. So at times I struggle sometimes with just the different thoughts or the different approaches to life. It is quite different to Kiwis, but this city life is awesome. Yeah, I love it, and it's good for our business being here in a bigger country as well. It's helping us to get our country to get our business going as well. Yeah.
Does Australia have as many of the earthquakes that New Zealand experiences?
No, which is good.
Yeah.
But we did have, I think it was last year, we had was it a 6 point something? And boy, that rocks. That that
starting
was like,
to get up there.
Oh yeah, it was like holy crap. Thank goodness it was quite deep, because it would have been quite disastrous otherwise, because Australia's not used to that kind of stuff, we had earthquakes all the time in New Zealand, and one of the places I used to live in Upper Hutt, the back of the place that I lived in was right on the back of the hill, and that was a fault line. So that was forever shifting and moving, and that was okay. And then came here and it was like, yay, no earthquakes. And there was one not long after I arrived, and then there was another big one last year. So that was pretty freaky.
Making you feel at home. I grew up on the San Andreas Fault, and a couple of weeks ago, I was actually up in the northern part of the state, and I was there for some speaking engagements, and I was sitting at a desk in a hotel room when suddenly I felt the ground start to move, and it wasn't too bad. It was only a 5.4, so it was a baby.
That's all right.
Yeah, but by the same token, I noticed it. And it was interesting, and I'm going, oh, okay, an earthquake. The 2-3 years ago, we had one about 100 miles from our home here in Victorville, and if I recall right, that one was about 6.5 or 6.6, and that afternoon, or actually the next day, I was traveling to Las Vegas for a convention. And I went in the hotel to a place to eat that night, and the ground started to move. So I immediately called my wife, and it moved pretty significantly. So I called my wife, and she said, yeah, it just happened here, and it was like 6.9 on the same fault that we felt the other one from. So I'm very glad that our house is only 6 years old and is kind of made to those standards to be able to cope with it. But we did, and there wasn't damage in our home, and apparently there wasn't much damage to any of the homes around us, but they do happen, and it's part of the world. And I always laugh when the people in the eastern part of the country say, well, I wouldn't want to live out there with all the earthquakes. And as I point out to them, you guys are killing off a whole lot more people with hurricanes and tornadoes and explosions of frozen pipes in the winter than we ever do.
Exactly. That's harsh, but that's so good.
Oh, what do you do? Nature is as it is, and we go on. Well, in your life, have you had much experience or much exposure to any kind of adversity? Because I would think that there have been some things that maybe happened that made you stronger.
Just a couple of things.
There you go.
Yeah, wow. Couple, yeah. I mean, I think probably when I was growing, I mean, playing sport and stuff, I had injuries and things, and that was okay. And I had, one of the biggest ones that I had is I had both my Achilles debrided, so I had scar tissue on both my Achilles, and they were really bumpy. And the surgeon said to me, "Look, the only way that we're going to be able to sort this out is if you have surgery on both at the same time." And I was like, "Yeah, kidding me." And she was like, "Yeah." And then they're both going into plaster to make sure that you can't run around and move. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay," because she knew me quite well. And so that was pretty tough. Like, the surgery went well. And then I was on plaster casts on both legs. So that was full lower leg plasters on both. I could put weight on one very slightly. And that was about 8 weeks of not being able to do much. And that really, like, that tested me. That really got inside my head. And was definitely not the person I am now, of course not, but I didn't even have anywhere near half the skills or abilities that I have now. Back then, I didn't cope well with it, and it tested me, and it really pushed me in the sense of working out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. And the coolest thing is that 6 months later, I was in Canada playing indoor hockey representing New Zealand. So I saw the thing of going through the tough time, dealing with it and coping with it, relatively okay. I wouldn't say I did it well, but I did it okay. And then I got myself back on deck. And the other thing, more recently, I mean, there's been a few things, but, probably the bigger things is in 2016, I had a cancer diagnosis, which came out of the blue. Certainly didn't expect that at all. And so then I had to go through the whole treatment thing for cancer diagnosis. So then finally, I think it was last year. Yeah. It was beginning of December last year, I got the all clear. So, got picked out of the oncology unit, which was quite nice, and kicked off the list. So that was all good and got the all clear. And that prompted me. I wrote a book, that came out of it as well. But that was a scary moment, getting that phone call of going, hey, we got the pathology results back, and you've got endometrial cancer, and here's the deal. And I stood there I remember standing in the kitchen of the place where we used to live, and I just stood there and I swore profusely for the first 30 seconds when I was on the phone with the surgeon. And then after that, I just was like, right. And I made a decision right then and there and went, you guys do your thing medically, and I'll do my thing mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I practiced what I preach, basically, and came through it pretty well. Yeah, came out the other end pretty well.
And that's the real issue, isn't it? That you decided to do what you needed to do mentally to move on. And that helped, I would think, prepare you for whatever happened medically.
Yeah, and it did. And it was really cool because I had such an awesome team that my radiation oncologist, I was still in touch with her yesterday, actually. She's legendary. She's just the most amazing person. The people that I had, my surgeons were amazing. Just everybody that I had around me was just awesome, really cool people, and it was, a lot of it obviously is my attitude to them. And, I brought the best of myself out every single day. It was, they said, look, we want to do chemo, we want to do this, we want to do that. And I said, right, tell me what and why and how, and then we'll make a decision. And when I spoke with Pearlie, the radiation oncologist, she said, here's why we want to do it. Here's the protocol. I was like, have you got anything else on offer? And she was like, well, we could do this and just have radiation. And here's what the plan is, because she had just been involved in a research project dealing with that particular protocol. And she said, here's the outcomes that we're getting, and here's the other stuff we've done alongside it. And so I said, hey, let's give that one a go. And so we went for it, and I committed to showing up every day as my best self, and it really, it was like they did too, even down to the radiation therapists and things like that were in there, the receptionists, everybody. It was just, every connection I had was really awesome. Yeah.
Who would you say are role models for you today, or people who influenced you and kind of made you who you are? Because you've got a lot of conviction. You've made a lot of very solid decisions. And although mental makeup is a wonderful thing, I would think that you've had some people who influenced you to help you shape those positions.
Yeah. I'd say, God, my mum sounds like a superhero. I think she is. I think my mum made a big impact on me the whole way through. And it was even things I'd fall off my bike and I'd hear mum from somewhere down the street or somewhere, somehow, even if it was inside my head, going, come on, get back up, on you go, get on with it. And I'd be like, oh, shit, okay. And it was just that thing to get up and go again. And that really made an impression on me. So I think mum was a massive impact in that. And she was a 5'1.5" pocket rocket. You know, it was like, if she can wear 6-inch heels and run across gravel, then, you know, it's pretty good to see. She had a massive impact. And my coach as well, that I've had for quite a few years now, is Linda Belzile-Busson, and she lives in Norway. She's a French Canadian, and her ability to call me on my BS, and she just taps in real fast. You know, like she's the most amazing, wrong English, but question asker that I have ever come across. She just, taps inside, and I'm like, wow, where the hell did that come from? And the challenge and growth that I've got from that experience with her is just amazing. And I think there's lots of people along the way. They're definitely the two that I could go bang, bang, you know, definitely those two people. There's lots of people around the place that I've picked up things they've said, or I've seen stuff. I don't know if I'd be able to specifically name a third. There's many people, that I've seen, heard, read stuff, that kind of thing.
You know, a lot of people, I suspect, probably haven't been, in some ways, for both of us, as fortunate as we were that we had people who challenged us. For me, I agree with you. Parents are important, and my parents were both very positive, and although not necessarily always in visible ways, but mentally certainly pushed me. Because they said, you know, no matter what people tell you, you may be blind, you happen to be blind, but you can do whatever you choose to do. And we're going to give you the opportunities. And I think the only way I could have disappointed them is if I didn't take advantage of the opportunities, because that's what it's really about. And so I hear exactly what you're saying. And there are so many people who say, well, but that's the way it is. You can't really go beyond it. That's just life. And my reaction, as I can tell yours already, is, well, it isn't just that's the way it is it?
It's the thing of whatever you want it to be. I mean, and that's one of the things that I don't know, see, hear, those kinds of things. Like, you're going to have, you know, whatever you like. It's like, if you want to, you know, whoever you want to be, friggin' be it. It's like, you can create whatever you want to create. And there's, you know, I often love the things when people say, you know, no one's coming to save you, and you know, whatever belief or thought people take out of that, and in a way, I totally believe it's true. It's like, you know, the person that's going to make the difference in this life is us individually. It's you know, we're the ones who can make our own life worth living, or we can make our life hell, and it's our choice to do that. And I just think it's like, whatever you want, get on with it, man, and go and do it.
Well, and the reality is, I think there are a lot of people who can come along and save you in a lot of different ways. It depends on what you define as save, because there's a lot of community around all of us if we would but take advantage of that and respect it. It amazes me the people who always just go, why? And, you know, my response always to that is, why not?
Exactly. I knew you were going to say that. I love that. Yeah,
and it is so important. But, you know, we really need to recognize that opportunities are limitless if we choose. And you said it earlier, and I think it's a very important part of this. It's all about choice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is always about choice. I mean, I look at the difference between myself and my sister, and I mean, yeah, she's been on the wrong side of the law and all these kinds of things, and you name it, she's done it. And we grew up in the same environment, you know, and we chose different pathways. I've got friends that I grew up with, and they've chose different ways of living, you know, they've chosen different pathways for them, their families, or whatever it is. And we always have a choice. I think, you know, so many people and even our clients go, no, you don't. You know, sometimes we don't have a choice. I'm like, well, you actually do. It's always a choice. There's always that choice not to choose. So it's still a choice. Yeah.
For me, the most significant examples of that, of course, is the World Trade Center and being in the World Trade Center on September 11th and escaping. And, you know, people said, well, you didn't have a choice. You were there. You're just lucky you got out. And the response is, no, there are a lot of choices. And the fact is, I could have chosen different jobs and not been in the World Trade Center, but I chose the life path that I had. And I was in the World Trade Center. And I didn't have any choice about the terrorists attacking the buildings. And I didn't have any choice about what happened directly to the buildings, near as I can tell. But even though I couldn't control so many things, if nothing else, I can control my own mindset. And so I am a firm believer in don't worry about the things that you can't control. Focus on the things that you really can control, and the rest will take care of itself. And the one thing we always have control over, no matter how bad circumstances become, we always have control over our mind and how we mentally deal with things, which is what you talked about with cancer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's one of the things that I always say is, you know, control the controllables, and exactly like you say, it's we've got control over our mindset. We can choose how we show up. We can choose what our thoughts are going to be. We can choose our response, our reaction to things, and I think that's one of the key things is it makes the difference between the people that can carry on and can get through adversity or can get through even the most exciting and amazing times as well, is to go, you know what, I choose to savor this moment. I choose to be present, and I choose to enjoy this moment instead of running off, worrying about what maybe kind of would, you know, could have happened. We choose to be in those moments, and it's, you know, control the controllables, which is, for me, I always say it's your top 6 inches kind of thing. It's like you control your thoughts, which makes a massive difference.
Well, you know, we may, for example, rent a home and the landlord comes and says, you got to be out by the end of the month. Don't have any control over that, right? But we do have control over how we deal with it. And it's maybe very frustrating. There may be so many things that happen, but by the same token, it still is a question of how we deal with it. My wife passed away this past Saturday. I didn't have any control over that. But I realize all the more and more since that happened, how much I have control over how I choose to deal with it. And I know after almost 40 years of marriage, what it means to love someone that deeply. And she's always going to be missed by me. And I will deliberately make sure that she's always missed by me. But still, it's time to move forward in whatever way is possible to move, because I didn't have control over what happened to her directly, but I know what I can do.
Yeah. And like you say, it's the choice. And I mean, the coolest thing that I remember talking about with my coach, Linda, is, you know, it's this thing of like we feel grief or we feel sadness because we've loved so much. And I think that when you were talking, it was like, to feel all the feels, you know, that's what helps to make us human. That's what helps to allow us to grow and develop, is when we feel all the feels and to be self-aware and choose to allow ourselves to do that. Because that's what, I mean, that's what makes us, or helps to have us being, you know, such a well-evolved being kind of thing. And when we can feel the feels and talk about things and, you know, share that and talk about it, I think that's what allows us to be able to move forward as well. Because if we try and hold on to stuff and shove it down and deny it, or, you know, say that, you know, no, it's all okay, which is BS. When we share that true feeling of who we are, that's what I think really allows us to keep moving forward.
Well, you went to school, went to college?
Yes, I did. Yep.
And then what did you do?
So I went to school, and so then I went to university, and then I went to university.
What did you get a degree in?
I did psychology, and I'm laughing because I did psychology because I thought it would be easy, and that way I could still get my student allowance and I could keep playing hockey. And I was like, yeah, that was just whatever. And so I went there, and I ended up staying at university for about 6 years. So I did I did psychology, and then I got a scholarship to go to another university, still within Palmerston North, in New Zealand, and do exercise science. And then from there, I carried on doing sports psychology as well. And so I just sort of stayed at university because it allowed me to have money and play hockey, which was great. And I never thought, anything of it, because I was like, I don't want to be a psychologist. I remember talking to one of the girls in our team and our hockey team, and she was a psychologist, and she was like, oh, Burnsy, because that was my nickname. She's like, Burnsy, I don't think, being a clinical psychologist is really for you. And so she told me about some of the stuff she was doing, and I was like, yeah, nah, that's not me. I'm not doing that. And then I went and got a job at one of the gyms in Palmerston North. So I sort of used my exercise science degree with that one. And then because I was still playing so much hockey, I was playing for Wellington, which was a different province. So I was traveling 2 hours, like 4 or 5 times a week. And it was just crazy. And they said, like, Burnsy, why don't you just get a job down here and shift? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Instead of traveling, let's do that. Lived in Wellington, got a job there teaching in exercise science. And then what did we do? Then I became program manager of the program. And yeah, it was just, and then so we incorporated positive psychology with the exercise science. And it was just, so it's kind of evolved, really. Yeah.
Playing hockey all the time?
Yes. And so I would often miss the beginning of the year with the students because I'd be away overseas for indoor hockey. So students would arrive, they'd do all the normal, early stuff and getting to know everybody. And I just totally would always miss that because I'd be away somewhere. And then I'd come back and then, go for it. But it kind of made it easier because I could say, where I'd been and what I'd been doing, and exercise science students thought that was pretty awesome. So yeah, it kind of made it easy to get back on track with things really each year.
So you were doing hockey sort of professionally while you were doing other things as well?
Well, I'd say I was doing it nearly full time. It wasn't professionally because we didn't get paid for it back then.
Okay. So you weren't on a paid hockey team.
No, I mean, we even, the tough thing was sometimes we were even pay. I mean, we'd pay for our flights, accommodation. A lot of the times we were even paying out for the shirt that we were playing in. New Zealand Hockey would pay for some of our stuff. They'd subsidise bits and pieces, but definitely got nothing anywhere near the funding that people get nowadays. We were, sometimes we were raising money, making pizzas and all sorts of stuff to be able to travel.
So were there professional hockey teams, or were you kind of what would be today a professional hockey team and player?
I would probably, the relative now would probably be a professional player, for who we were and what we were doing back then. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you obviously enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with it and so on. And what caused you finally to stop doing it, or have you really stopped playing hockey?
Yeah, I have stopped. I was playing an outdoor game actually one of the times back home in Wellington, and I don't know, it was just weird, and it was an outdoor game, and I was heading in to the turf to play, and I was like, this might be my last game. And I was like, what? Where did that come from? So the royal we in my head, had the conversation of like, oh my gosh, what? Where did that come from? And I was like, I don't need to keep doing this. This is crazy. And I drove in to, so it takes about 45 minutes to get to the turf in Wellington from where I was. And I drove in, we won our game. I never touched the ball because I played in goal. And I never touched the ball at all that game. And I was bored. And I came off the turf, I took my gear off, and I zipped up my bag, and I went, that's it. No more. I'm not playing outdoor. I'm not playing indoor. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty freaky. Because it was my whole identity of who I was. It was, that was everything. And then came over here to Australia, and I, when I was teaching at Monash University, I spoke to someone there, and they were like, oh, you could come and coach our goalies. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's easy. So I did that. I did some coaching over here for a while, but yeah, didn't carry on playing. And I kind of miss it, but I also don't. Yeah.
Kind of one of those kind of do, kind of don't, bittersweet things.
It is. It's, I love I miss the kind of whatever word that is, the aggression, the competition, the challenge of it. I miss that, but I don't miss the continual practices and trainings and sacrifice. I mean, I played. I think there was a span of about. I mean, I played longer than. I only played 13 years because I only started playing hockey in my last year of school. But I played a span of 10 years where I just went indoor, outdoor hockey the whole time, and I didn't actually to be honest, I didn't take time off. I was training and playing across those 10 years of just going indoor, outdoor the full time. And it was that I don't miss. Yeah, that was the stuff I'm okay to let that go.
So it sounds like it was time now. Was your partner a hockey player?
No, she was a musician and did a lot of singing as well. But she wasn't really a sports person, but she enjoys workouts and she enjoys doing things like that. But yeah, is definitely more of the musician and the singer kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
So did she play at the games?
No, she didn't, no.
just checking. But still, that's cool that
yeah.
you had a relationship. So was she an influence in any way of you deciding not to play hockey so you could spend more time together or any of that?
No,
totally different.
Huh? No, yeah, totally different.
You just decided.
Yeah, I just decided it was weird, and I must admit, I did get a fright because it was like the thought which is random, because I didn't even think of exactly where I was standing when I had that thought. It kind of shocked me that I was like, oh my gosh, I never saw that time ending. Like I never thought, I didn't even think about it, to be honest, of not being a hockey player. Which even sharing it there as that identity thing I mostly had quite strong, is that I just never saw myself as not doing it. Yeah.
Sounds like God came along and said, okay, other things to do now.
Yeah, I certainly got the right royal invisible kick in the pants and went, whoa, that's that one gone. I was like, shoosh, okay, cool, now what? Yeah,
and you survived.
Pretty cool. I did. And that's what I think is funny. It's like, all these things happen, and I mean, you know that yourself. It's like we experience all these different things, and it's like, well, we're still here. We made it through, so we survived that one too. So that's okay. Next, there's always new things to learn, always new things to step into.
Well, being a hockey player, an active athlete, and doing all of that for so many years must have taught you things that you put into your life lessons today. What probably is the most important, or are the most important things that you learned that you took away from all of that?
I think the first thing that pops in my head is never give up. And for me, it was that thing of, just to keep going. It's like tweak and change, keep going, tweak and change, keep going. It's that you can always make a difference. You can always make an impact. And if you keep going with it and tweak and change and learn on the way through, you'll get across it. You'll get through it. Literally there is always a way in that sense. Yeah.
Well, you, what do you do today? You've obviously moved on from hockey and you're surviving. Mm-hmm. You went to Australia. What do you do today?
Today I am co-founder and CEO of WALT Institute. So we've got our own business, which is Women Authentic Leadership Training Institute. And so we work with women in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. And we do a lot of authentic leadership training with them. So our whole focus is on the person and their own leadership of themselves first. So it's not your traditional leadership. It's that kind of thing, is to empower people so they can have more confidence, more self-awareness, self-regulation, and jump into that whole thing of being their best version of themselves every single day. So it's fun. I love it. It's not a job. It's just what I do each day.
Which is always something that makes it a lot of fun, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, even for now, it's like to be able to get up. I mean, 7:30 is not that early in the morning, but it's, to get up and be on here with you at 7:30 a.m. We had training that we took the other night with our inner circle, and that didn't finish till 7 p.m. at night. And it doesn't matter, it's these kinds of things. Is like, I don't care about the hours of those things, because I love what I do so much.
So what is your mission in life? What is it you want to accomplish?
I mean, the thing that I want to do is, which sounds a bit weird, but I want people to be able to experience, know, feel, enjoy all those kind of things that I've not the exact same things that I've experienced, but to experience that kind of level of fun and excitement and enjoyment in their own lives and more. Just so that people can be present and enjoy life and have a good time doing it. Yeah.
So you, as a person who gets up in the morning, mostly I would think get up and you're positive, you move on. Yep. I guess my question is, how do you set yourself up each day to do that and to thrive and go forward?
I smile. It's the first thing I do when I wake up, is I smile every single morning. And when I first started doing it, when I was going through treatment, and it's just become an automatic thing. So as soon as I start waking up and I realize it, I'll put a big smile on my dial. Sometimes I can feel that rush of all the happy chemicals float through me. Sometimes I don't, but I still smile anyway. And then I always ask myself of who I choose to be today. And that's, who do I choose to be? And that can be anything from curious, excited to be focused and energized, or whatever it is, whatever that stuff is that pops into my head. And then each day, or at 5 out of 7 days, I will get up, do meditation, go do a workout or exercise of some sort. And then more often than not, I'll have a green smoothie and then carry on my merry way. Yeah.
When I get up in the morning, I have a cat who now smushes right up next to me, and the dog is on the floor and the cat is right up against me, probably trying to stay warm in part. But when I say it's time to get up, she's up. And the first thing, and it's so funny that I have to do, is to go over and pet her while she eats breakfast. She will not eat unless I am petting her and giving her back rubs. What a crazy thing. But if that doesn't start your day off in a fun way, I don't know what does.
That is gorgeous. Talk about all your warm fuzzies and get everything you need to kick off the day. That's brilliant. I love that.
and the dog sits there and watches, and Alamo, the guide dog, goes, oh, well, if you gotta. But I always come back and talk to him too.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, what about Maiko? Are you going to pet me as well?
Yeah, exactly right. And he just suffers in silence until he gets petted too. But Stitch the cat insists, and during the day when she decides she's hungry, she yells until I come in and pet her.
Oh no.
She's vocal about it. It's so funny.
That is awesome. We used to have a Siamese cat when I was we had a few, but our first Siamese cat that I can remember, we used to call her her name was Midfield Mandy. She had a big long family history. And she used to sit on the bench with Mum. So when Mum was doing the veggies and things, the cat and Mum would sit there and have a conversation. And the cat would have all these different ranges of, she'd meow in all these different ways. And Mum and the cat would have this conversation. And I used to just love it. I think it was brilliant. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Tell us about your book.
So my book, it's called Igniting Resilience, Overcoming the Despair of Receiving a Death Sentence. And I started writing it just in the sense of, just minimize that, but hey, just in the beginning was this thing of like, I want people to kind of know that there's a different way that you could approach these kind of things. And then it kind of turned into this whole thing of practicing what I preach. There's my story of going through the whole cancer journey. But what I've done in it is made it so that there's a lot of strategies, and there's basically everything that we teach, that's what I practiced, and there's a whole lot of those strategies within the book as well. And there's a lot of learnings and things that I took through. So it's not just which sounds really bad, but the wah story of it all. It's a teaching memoir is what it's under. yeah. So it's pretty it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah.
Did you have people who tried to bring you down, naysayers who said, "Oh, none of the strategies makes any sense or is any good"?
Yeah, I had a lot of people like, oh, why are you writing about that? No one wants to know about that. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Um, or, people were like, those strategies just, you can't be like that all the time. That's just dumb, And it was like, yeah, you can. And so I was like, every now and again, little bits of it did get in when they kind of said, oh, well, that just doesn't work and there's just no way that's going to work for me. I was like, hang on a minute. That's their choice to choose that. Okay, that's why. That's where they're at. Because I was practicing what I teach and I was seeing other people who were doing different parts similar to that, and it was working for them. Their journeys, even getting through any type of adversity, was different because they were implementing these strategies. So I was like, you know what? You can take your BS, you can take your poor woe is me, little comments and take them wherever you like. Yeah.
Or why don't you try it and just see how well it works for you? And then let's talk.
Exactly. Yeah. There were the odd ones of those. And some people were like, yeah, okay. Yep. Well, or some of that worked. I'm like, oh, that's good. So tell me about that. But yeah, then there was many others that were like, nah, that's just bullshit. And I was like, okay, cool. So fine. Yep.
Yeah. So many people just say, well, this won't work. This can't work. And it's like so many people fear the whole concept of blindness. And what's amazing is how many people say they're experts on blindness, although they've never tried it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love. Yeah. It's like, until you experience it, just calm down. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. It's just one of those things. Well, over the years, you've evolved and so on. What do you do differently, or what would you do differently now, or as you're moving forward than you used to do? How have you changed how you deal with people or teach people and so on?
Yeah. One big thing is I know I definitely do more so now, and it makes a massive difference. Is I don't allow my ego to be around when I'm with people or teaching people or just being in the space with other people. And I know I used to do that. It used to help me a little bit, and when in my sporting days, it was sort of a good protector for me. But I don't have the ego around me now when I'm with people. And going through that whole cancer thing, it got annihilated. I sort of had, no limits on things. I mean, I had people poking, prodding me all over the place that, it was obviously with my best interests at heart. And so it brought out more of my vulnerability, which was pretty cool. So yeah, to not have the ego and to be able to be more vulnerable on a consistent basis, I think is definitely been a massive help for me for who I'm being now. And that's something I'll continue to practice as well.
It's all about learning to move on and evolve, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. And I think the thing I love is, I mean, it's too, you are too, is in similar senses, is that thing of going, when you learn about yourself, when you're willing to put yourself out there, when you're willing to, I don't know, admit all of who you be, it's like, well, I can't hide anything else, so hey, here it is. And then you don't have to show the world everything or tell them everything, but it just makes it so much easier to keep moving forward.
Do you still discover new things about yourself?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I surprise myself still. And go, oh my gosh, where did that come from? Or, oh shit, did I really say that at that point in time? Or, just, yeah, I mean, changing and learning and growing kind of keeps allowing me to see the next me, I guess. Having my coach is like, she'll ask me questions or we'll talk about something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Or it's just, yeah, it's a never ending journey, really.
Isn't it fun?
It's the best. I just think it's to tap into it and to just kind of like experience my own life, I think is pretty friggin' exciting.
And it doesn't get any better than that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's pretty special. It's pretty amazing.
Well, this has been fun. We have been now going for definitely a little bit longer than an hour, and it's now late enough for you to have breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, Christine, I want to thank you for being with us on Unstoppable Mindset. I want to do this again. We have to find more things to talk about and do this again. But tell people how they can reach out to you. Well, and about the WALT Institute. Is it virtual?
Mhm.
Is it a physical place or what?
We have, so for WALT Institute, we have both online and in-person events. We do a lot of group online training. So, I mean, we've got people from all around the world that are part of our group programs, that we coach one-on-one, and that also attend things like we do free webinars and stuff like that. And people from all over the world attend those. And we also coach people online. So we have our online basis. And then we also do face-to-face. So we do workshops and events as well. So that's pretty easy to find us. Our handle pretty much on everything, on all social media stuff, is at WALT Institute. So WALT Institute, all one word. And you can also, I mean, you can track me down, Christine Burns, as well, through any of those. And if anyone wants my book, which is pretty friggin' amazing, it's called Igniting Resilience, and that's on Amazon. Or if people live in Australia, New Zealand, it's also published in New Zealand. So you can get a special little copy from New Zealand that has this awesome little shield on the back that says "Made in New Zealand." So only from the publishers in Nelson, New Zealand, the copy press. They when you buy it through them, they put this cool little shield on it. Yeah.
With it being on Amazon and so on, is there an Audible or an audio version?
I haven't got to doing that one yet. I really want to do that myself, and I really want to do the audio version. I want to try and get it done ASAP. The thing that I'd love to is to be able to find someone or a place that would like to sponsor it, because I want to get it done with a high quality. And so that's the only thing. I've got it in paperback, and it's also online as an ebook as well, but not yet in the Audible. That's my next move. So I'm on the hunt to see if I can get some assistance on that one.
Well, let us know. We'll tell the world about it as well. When was the book originally published?
It was actually published. This year, which is pretty new. So I'm just flicking through it. I know. Published 2022. So it was.
There you are.
Was it July, August? I think it was around my birthday. So it was July this year. It was published. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. It was a very happy one. I tell you that one. I was like, oh my God.
Is there
That's pretty amazing.
Is there a website for the WALT Institute or that you want to refer people to?
Yeah. So the website is www.waltinstitute.com. And so there's plenty of details in there. There's lots of information about us. There's lots of information about the programs that we run. And people can, one of the things that we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, that type of stuff. We're on LinkedIn as well. And also within there is the ability to order the book as well. So my book's in there that you can tap into as well.
Super. Well, thank you again for being here. This has absolutely been fun. And I want to thank you for listening wherever you're listening to this podcast. I hope that you'll give us a 5-star rating and that you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear from you directly. Of course, the 5-star rating, but you're welcome to email me at michaelhi@accessibe.com. Or go to our podcast page, www.michaelhingson.com/podcast. But please let us know what you think. Give us a rating. Invite others to listen as we continue Unstoppable Mindset. I think Christine has demonstrated why unstoppability is a good thing and certainly taught us a lot about how to do it. And so I don't think you can do any better than that. And Christine, seriously, thanks again for being here. And we need to do this some more.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here with you, Mike, and I've loved every minute of it. And yeah, I would love to do it again. This would be so cool. This would be exciting.
Well, when are you going to do a podcast?
I've been thinking about it, and it's like, oh my gosh, where else can I fit this in? Yeah, I'm sure I could have quite fun doing podcasts. So at the moment, I'm just jumping on other people's, but I'm seriously thinking about running my own one.
Let us know. Love to come on.
I sure would. I'd have you on at a drop of a hat. That would be amazing.
Well, thanks once more for being here with us.
Thank you so much.